Well, here we are with another edition of G Dog Unspoken, and we talk about things we don't typically talk about but probably should. And we've got we've got the amazing guest back again, Jamie Harrison. How are you, mate?
Hey, Gary. Hey, listeners.
Mate, what's happening? We're back again. How long's it been?
It's been a week. It feels like we just
feels like a week.
Yeah.
Mate, I will say, though, the amount of feedback we got from your last honest and vulnerable talk.
It was really good.
It was huge, wasn't it?
It was great. It was good. Yeah. People just came out from everywhere and made comments. It was really surprising.
I had people say to me that maybe you should just take over the show. So there was people all through the work environment and even some teenagers listening going, mate, how good was that bloke being so vulnerable and honest.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we can swap seats if you want to.
Well, mate, I might have to go that way.
I just can't just jump up and move around though, so you'll have to swing me around there.
We're in a different circumstance, different environment here, aren't we? Like last time we went to the hospital.
Yeah.
And now you're in the comfort of the home, and glad you could come over, mate, for dinner. It was good.
Yeah, yep. Had a great feed tonight, so thanks to Rachel and yourself. It was good. But it's a bit quieter here too. We don't have that elevated ping. So for the listeners that listened last time,
we just put a sound effect in there.
It was shocking. I didn't hear it though. I didn't notice it, right? We just made a comment before. So me being in hospital and me listening to it constantly, I just didn't hear it. But a few of my mates rang and said, hey, listen, what the hell's going on in the background there? What's that pinging? Where are you? You know, in a submarine or something. So, but no, good to be here.
No, mate, and glad you're here. And if I said to you, like, out of a scale of 1 to 5, how you feeling right now, what would you say?
4.
4? Pretty high.
Yep.
All right.
4.
And if the listeners are tuning in here, what's something you're really grateful for right now?
Last weekend. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that, are we?
We won't talk about it, but for the listeners, I had a good weekend.
All right.
Awesome weekend.
Well, mate, to start the show, I want to go back. Can we go back a little bit about, like, obviously it's been sensitive around your injury and stuff, but let's recap. Let's recap on Fink, because I was still trying to understand about the race myself. What is it all about? What's it really about?
Well, it's a huge desert race, right, in Alice Springs, and it's run over a 3-day period, and on one day you qualify. So they usually cap the bikes at 650 entries. The cars are around about 160.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of people, a lot of competitors. And I was racing bikes, obviously, and I'd been racing bikes since 2007, going back there, up until 2021, where my accident happened. But it's a desert race that originally started from a bunch of local guys in Alice Springs who would run up and down the service road for the old Garn railway line.
Okay.
So they had this railway line there, and the boys would run up and back. And I think they called it there and back originally.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, as I said, it's a 3-day event. Day 1 you qualify, and then the first race day you basically do 230 odd Ks down to Fink. So you start at Alice Springs and you head to a place called Fink, or the Fink River, where you'll camp overnight, and then you race back. So you do close to 460 Ks all up over the 2 days. And they run the cars in the morning. So the cars will start, I think it's either 6 or 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
And they'll finish up close to about lunchtime. And then after that, the bikes will start. So you don't have bikes and cars on at the same time.
Okay, yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
Okay.
And mate, it's just full noise. It's as fast as you can go. You know, you set the bike up very differently to how you would set it up racing enduros at home or through the trees at home, because it is it is just flat out. It really is just high speed.
And what size capacity bike are you riding at the time?
I've ridden everything. So everything from for those
PV50, they're pretty good. PV50, they're pretty. They're tough.
I think 1 year actually I never saw it, but someone told me about it. Some guy did try and do it on a 90 quad, right?
Wow.
And you're just not doing it. There's no way you're doing it. No. But I've ridden pretty much all capacities from 2 strokes, 4 strokes. The biggest obviously being it was a KTM 500.
Yeah.
But yeah, rode them all. But so I originally found out about it through reading magazines.
Okay.
And then I rang one of my mates that's raced it many, many times. And he's a Darwin boy, rang him and said, listen, what's the go with this race? I'm interested in coming over from Sydney and doing it. And he filled me in on a couple of details. And so I went over, not knowing what I was going to get in for, not knowing anything about it really. And I I got there and I booked myself into a caravan park and just started running up and down and practicing and having a bit of a look and whatnot. And then my mate, his name's Jason, he said, "Oh, look, there's a local guy there. His name's Simon." He said, "You should get in contact with him. He'll look after you." And so I'd spent a couple of nights in the caravan park doing my practicing, running up and down. And then Simon came and introduced himself, sought me out in the caravan park. We had a chat, and I reckon within about 15 minutes, he said, "Oh, listen, check out of here. You come stay with me." So that was in 07.
Wow.
So from 07 to, geez, I don't know, it must have been maybe 2009. Even later, 2000. Well, it was a few years, probably 4 or 5 years. I was going back, just staying at this local guy's house, which was unreal because obviously I had the comfort of sleeping in a proper bed. I wasn't camping, doing it hard, and just loved it. But I started going back most years. So after finding out about it in the magazine, talking to my mate, I'd go back and I just loved racing, and I loved, growing up and doing. Part of my childhood was in Alice Springs.
Yeah.
So I loved going back there just probably for the memory of being there. And I loved the NT, so I loved going back to get the bit of an NT feel about it.
Yeah.
I love racing, of course, but it was also my holiday. It was a chance to catch up with mates.
Yeah.
It was a chance. I'd spent a couple of weeks up there, and it was just such a good time. But I got the bug. I got the speed bug, so I just kept going back. I just kept loving it, and the more times I went back, the faster I got. Then I started to get competitive. Then I started chasing podiums. And when you start getting at the pointy end, which is what I was doing, so to give you an idea how sort of close to the pointy end I was getting, out of the 650 odd riders that would enter, my best was 24th outright. So it's safe to say that the top 20 odd are all professionals.
Yeah.
Because you'd have guys coming from interstate. But I had to train pretty hard to get there. I had to spend a lot of money on the bike. I had to train for months prior. I had to go there, and you're allowed to practice on the track prior to the race.
Yeah.
So you could run up and down that same track and just have it dialed into your head. You knew every bump, everything.
The muscle memory stuff.
Muscle memory stuff. So I would do thousands of kilometres practicing that track.
And is that your training? Or
it was part of the training as well, like the lead up to the race.
Yeah.
So every year that I raced, I would be there at least close to 2 weeks prior.
Just to get
and
the rhythm of the track again.
Yep, a whole bunch of mates would be camping, and we'd just be running up and down that track, which is sort of the what can I say? Me crashing on such an easy section of that track is a little bit hard for me to take, and accept that part of it, because I didn't crash on a really hard spot. I didn't crash into someone else.
Jamie, had you crashed before? Have you had some stacks on the track?
Not really. I've always sort of ridden, at about 9/10 because it is sort of high speed. So I was always kept something in reserve.
Yeah.
And that's why I had such a high finish rate.
Yeah.
And that's why I was able to take care of the machine, take care of my body, because it really was energy management is how I looked at it.
Yeah.
But I love going there. Not only do I love going there racing, but I love catching up with mates there and making some really big connections.
Yeah.
I could catch up with mates. There were mates that I'd only ever see in Alice Springs. They might be from Mackay, Victoria, and we'd just ring up and go, you're going back to Fink? Yep, all right, see you there.
And then when you arrived, it felt like there was no time lost?
Felt like we spoke to him yesterday.
That's crazy. I was going to ask you what kind of connections you made at Fink, and since the accident, is there still close connections with those guys and that from the race? Like, is since I suppose when that we talked about the story last time about how you crashed and someone was there to lie over you, and you're talking about the dramatic story of what happened. Are all those blokes still in contact with you now? Yep,
very much so.
Yeah.
I spoke to Travis, the fella that came to my rescue. He spoke to him just the other day, just to let him know that I'm aiming to go back there.
Yeah.
And his first words, were, "I'll meet you there." So you got to love the guy for that. But made a lot of really, really good, solid connections. I could travel pretty much anywhere around Australia at the moment, and I reckon I'd know someone that would put me up.
Take you there, yeah?
Yeah, take me in, just through bikes, right?
That's crazy.
And a lot of them I met in Alice Springs. And it starts innocently, right? You might see someone just pulled up over on the side of the track having a rest, pre-running, not racing.
Yeah.
And you might pull up and just make sure everything's right. Next thing you know, you're there for 40 minutes having a chat where you just thought you were going to pull over and see if he's all right. And then next thing you know, you're asking where he's camping, and you might go and move your camp and camp down next to them. And next thing you know, you're good mates. It just evolves like that, and evolves pretty much that quickly too sometimes.
That's crazy.
So, I got some really solid mates there.
That's awesome, mate. And then if we can jump to the hospital in Adelaide. Mm-hmm. So you got chopper out of there. Remember the first chopper was the wrong chopper, so you're still there for an extra 40 minutes or an hour. And then the right chopper came, and then you got to Adelaide.
Yep.
What happened when you sort of came, a bit more depth, I suppose, this time? What was the feeling like when you came to and you knew what was going on? How did you get through? Was there still connections there? What happened in Adelaide?
Well, if I give a bit more description to the accident. So I'd just gone through, this is June 2021, racing that year. It was going to be my last race, actually. I was thinking about getting into something a bit more safer, in other words, 4 wheels or a car.
Yeah.
But I thought I had some mates coming up wanting to go there. I wanted to sort of chaperone them a bit, give them the ins and outs. And I also wanted to race, no doubt about it. But I just didn't have the same fire in my belly that I usually have. Anyway, we'd done all the pre-running. Everything had been pretty much the same. I was running the same sort of suspension. I was running the same similar bike. So nothing different there.
Yeah.
But just wasn't really feeling it. I'd prologued, I think, third fastest in my class, and so I had a bit of chasing to do. And anyway, I'd come into we usually did 2 fuel stops. So over the 230 k's you race, you would stop twice for fuel.
Yeah.
Usually stop for fuel, fresh goggles, and an energy shot, gel shot. Yeah. And I'd just come into the 80k mark where my first fuel stop was. And it's usually a bunch of mates that are just camping there, hanging out, standing there with a jerry can and a
pit stop
and a
pit crew
and a carton of grog where they've written your number on it, in text or something on the cardboard.
That's perfect.
But so I just come into the fuel stop. I'd only just done it, and then it was about the 85k mark. So the fuel stop was at 80, and
5k's
later, I've just gone through this really, really easy section, and just hit some bull dust. And hit a big rock inside the bull dust, right? And just didn't see it. So it cartwheeled me. Travis, who saw the accident, said that the bike hit me and folded me. So it wasn't me hitting the ground; it was the bike hitting me. I was conscious the whole time.
Yeah.
I remember, I remember it hitting me and thinking, shit, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Little did I know that it'd broken my back. By the time I finally sort of come stop rolling around, come to a stop, Travis ran over and, as I said before, jumped over me and protected me, and him and his mates did an amazing job doing that, protecting me. But the first chopper came. Mind you, sorry, go back a step. So the medics came. Now that was scary. So I still got my helmet on. I've still got my visor smashed down over my eyes.
Yeah.
And I still didn't want to take it off because I've said this before, but I felt safe in my helmet. I felt like I was in a safe bubble there for some unknown reason. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to open it up and see reality, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
But the medics came and they do their thing with the whistle, and I remember him saying, "Mate," and I'm lying on my back at this time, and I remember him saying to me that they've got to roll me on my side so they can check my spine. And I'm screaming at him as angry as I can without literally grabbing him and smacking him in the face. I'm just screaming at him, "Do not fucking move me.
Is that right?
Do not move me." Right. But I knew it was coming, right? I was just scared because I knew if they roll me and find out and confirm what I was thinking.
Yeah. Sorry, mate, were you in shock then? Like, did you have feelings in your legs? You had pins and needles?
No, because I'd asked Travis to move my legs.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were folded.
Yeah.
And he said they were straight. And I literally said, shit, I've lost my legs. So from the get-go, I knew I'd lost my legs. But it wasn't confirmed until the medics go there. But no, I could reach down and not feel my legs. So I reached down and actually grabbed my left leg and couldn't feel it in my leg.
Yeah.
And so I knew straight away.
Yeah.
But the medics were there and, when they rolled me over, and I still can feel it now, actually, they start at the top with their hands and their fingers in your spine, and they're trying to go down your spine and feel it, and they can feel one vertebrae and then go to the next, they go to the next, they go to the next. And then you just feel the hand sink into your back.
Jeez.
And you know that's where the divot is, that's where the break is. And I can remember that right even now. Not only that, but the pain of it, right? They're pushing in on a broken vertebrae, so it was killing me.
I can't imagine that.
And being conscious, I was just screaming. I was just screaming in pain. And then the chopper came. 40 minutes lying there, just not knowing what's going to happen. Already thinking, Jesus, what's just happened? Your mind goes to mush.
Yeah.
You really can't think straight. The first chopper came, realised that I was spinal. The chopper could only take a sitting sort of a passenger. So I had to wait. I think it was approximately another 40 minutes for another chopper to come where I could lie down on it, and then they flew me into Alice. But they loaded me up on ketamine for the pain.
Yeah.
And if anyone knows ketamine, it gives you hallucinations. And I remember looking at the paramedic. I told you this story off air, but I remember the paramedic, and I'm looking at him, and his face was fine, but his hands were those little yellow Lego hands, and I was still just thinking, what is he? What can he do? Yeah, what's he going to do for me? Nothing. Like, can we get someone else here? I remember having those sorts of thoughts, but. Then they took me into Alice, and then, mate, the rest of the story, we end up down in Adelaide of all places, and this is middle of COVID, right? So really hard for people to get to me. Yeah. But lying in Alice was hard because you're waiting, right? They're trying to work out what they're going to do with you. They're organising the Royal Flying Doctor Service to get you to Adelaide, so there's a delay in organising planes. So you've got hours where you can't sit up, you can't do anything. You're just lying on looking at the ceiling. Yeah, in your thoughts.
What were your thoughts then? Can you remember?
I kept just saying to myself, shit, what shit, and then you go through and you start making deals with God, mate, just all right, I'll start going to church, if you just give me my legs, and if you can't give me my legs, well, just let me stand, and I'll be a better person. I'll make sure I'm polite to you. You just say some silly stuff, right? You just say anything. You're just trying to make a deal to get better.
But you're not alone there. My old man went through the same thing when he had pancreatic cancer. Just give me one more chance. I won't even have one more beer. I won't have nothing. I'll do whatever you need. Just give me this back. Yep. Just give me a chance.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I was the same. Yep. I was just lost. I just lost really. Yeah. Because most the guys I was with were racing, right? So they're at the other end. They're not with me. They're doing their overnighter at Fink. So I was lucky enough that, because I'd lived in the area years and years ago, like I was there when I was under 10. Dad had some old friends still there from when he lived there, and he reached out, and one of them came in and saw me at the hospital, and I remembered him. I knew him, a guy called Jerry, and it was nice of him to come in just to be there for me.
Yeah.
But he'd seen me, he'd come and watch me over the years, so it was interesting to even see the pain on his face, to have known me as a child, as a kid, from, probably 5 onwards.
Yeah.
Now to see later on in life me racing and doing well, but then to see me lying on a stretcher, with a broken back. He didn't know how to speak to me. He didn't know what to say. And I'd be in the same position, right? If I was him. So roles reversed, I'd be the same. So no judgment, but he just didn't know what to say to me. You know, obviously he couldn't say anything to comfort me.
Yeah.
He could just be present.
Yeah.
You know, just it be a presence for me to just know that I wasn't alone, which was all I could ask for at the time, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And during your thoughts here at hospital, like I can see it's hard for you to go back and reflect on those things, but did you go through all the emotions? Were you angry? Were you upset? Were you wild at certain things? Did you just say, why did I even do this again? I didn't really want, or my passion wasn't fully there. Like, did you have all those thoughts come through your brain as well?
I wasn't angry. The anger came later.
Okay.
The anger came probably in rehab when I started to really realise my situation. Okay. Because at the time, you're still being as early as it was in the injury. I still had that hope of something changing.
Yeah.
So it was early days, right? You say you're still in the unknown part of the process, part of the journey. Yeah. So I was still in the hope mode. So I wasn't angry, but I wondered why. I was blaming myself, like, how, you dick, why did you, that was just a rock, mate. Like, if you hit thousands, like, why didn't you see it? You know, so there was all that going on. And then, as I said, I wasn't really into the race. So I started saying to myself, you knew yourself you weren't in for it. And that sort of race, you've got to turn up fully committed.
Yeah. Mentally,
physically, mechanically, all that sort of stuff. And I just didn't have the three components, right? The bike was right, so the mechanical part was right. Physically, I was strong, but and fit, but mentally, I probably wasn't on my A game, and I needed to be.
Yeah.
Do I blame that? No, but I reckon it sort of contributed to the whole thing.
So do you think there's a bit of, I don't know if this is the right word, complacency? That you knew the track so well, you knew it was your last run?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Over the years, I'd steadily lost components of safety gear. So I used to start out, I'd wear neck braces, I'd wear chest protectors, but I just found I felt uncomfortable with them. And if I wasn't comfortable, I didn't ride to the best of my ability. So I'd lose a piece and everything would be all right. So next year I'd lose another piece. So the year that I crashed, I literally had a jersey on, like that's no thicker than a T-shirt, and, a camelback with a bladder in it for some fluids. And I was doing, the max speed of my bike was 155, right? And there was times that I was doing 155 across the desert as fast as I could. So, yeah, well, I got a bit complacent. I got to be complacent for sure.
So then you're in the hospital in Alice Springs and going through, you're saying, oh, shit, what's going on? And you've got a mate there beside you. And was there parts, like how long were you in Alice, and was there parts that you started coming good? Like, or was that further down the track?
No, Alice was just a blur. I was there, Jerry turned up and was there with me and by my side, but it was still a bit of a blur because I was just in denial. I was in denial. I was hope. I was never angry. I was just confused. I was uncertain. I was. I wanted help. Like I wanted someone else to come and give me an answer, but no one could. And you can tell even with the medical staff when they're talking to you, they know that your life's just changed. So they do everything they can professionally, but in terms of engaging, I did notice that it was like they didn't want to start a chat with me in case I asked those hard questions that they just didn't want to answer because they didn't want to be the one giving me the bad news.
Yeah.
So there was minimal eye contact, those sorts of things. I noticed that even as I was lying there. They looked after me. Of course they did. They did everything they have to do. They had to do, and they did an amazing job. But I did notice that there was just that. What's the right word? The sort of detachment.
Yeah.
Which set me up a bit because I knew things were bad. I would already realised when I reached down and grabbed my leg, right, that I'd lost my legs, but. Again, being uncertain, I still had that hope, and I was thinking, all these deals with God I made, I'm going to be super good after this. Just give them back to me, was I really that bad? Why have you taken them away from me? Like, what did I do that bad that you had to do this to me? Are you testing me? Like, what? you've got something else in store for me. Yeah, and I'm not a hugely religious person, but I think a lot of us at these times all of a sudden become religious, right? Yeah. Selfishly, we haven't paid our dues prior to it, but now all of a sudden we want some help.
Yeah, looking for hope.
Yeah, looking for hope, and that was me. But yeah. So
then, what happened from there? What happened from Alice? Did you stay there for a while, or did you get moved somewhere else?
Alice. I don't know how long I was in Alice for. It would have been quite a few hours.
Yeah.
But they flew us straight down to Adelaide.
Yeah.
Royal Flying Doctor Service. Me and another fellow, Bradley Dunn.
Yeah.
Who's a local Alice Springs fellow.
Okay.
Yeah, nice guy. Also a racer, obviously.
Yeah.
They flew us down to Adelaide. We did, I think it was St. John's Hospital we went to, and we had surgery that night, which was scary because you don't know. Again, same sort of thing. Everyone's fussing over you, doing everything they have to do medically, but I'm trying to engage with. I'm trying to get someone's attention. I'm trying to ask all these questions, and obviously the questions are: am I going to walk? Right? Am I going to walk? Someone else comes into the room. Am I going to walk? Oh, they're just a tea lady or something. Like, you're asking everyone.
Yeah.
Anyone, whoever's in front of you, am I going to walk?
Yeah.
And I didn't know who I was asking. I could have been just asking a nurse assistant. Was I asking the head doctor? I didn't know, but I was just, asking the same question over and over again. Am I going to walk? Am I going to walk? And they did, we had surgery. And then I spent, quite a few months down in Adelaide.
Yeah.
In hospital, and that's where I had a chance to make some really good connections with some people, and some of the staff there, because I spent so long there. Some of the staff there was great.
How long till you were smart ass to one of them?
It didn't take me long, right? Didn't take me long. Well, I don't know. You just get the best out of people if there's a bit of a giggle, right? You break that barrier down pretty quick with humour.
It's a dying art, mate. It's a dying art. Everyone's so serious all the time.
If you talk to someone and all of a sudden they realise you're good for a giggle or you're a bit cheeky, bang, so many barriers come down.
Yeah.
And I had this one nurse, Ali, and he was amazing to me. He I believe he went over beyond, and him and I became really good mates. I haven't kept in contact with him, and I hate myself for it. But the way he looked after me, he was always coming in, checking on me, doing just amazing things, even to the point where he was bringing in home-cooked dinners for me.
Oh, no.
That's how sort of mates we were.
Yeah, good.
Having a giggle, and I was always, I wanted to know about his family, I wanted to know about this and about that. So it was just a good time, and even though the staff would rotate, every time I got him, I just knew I'd have a great week.
Yeah,
if he was on him. Yeah, because I had him. But
so how long did it take? Like, I don't want to keep going negative. You just talk about happiness and how it sort of broke that barrier. But how long were you when you get to Adelaide? Did you go through some? I know you said rehab. Did you go through still a lot of anger there? Were you withdrawn for a while? Were you like, woe is me for a while, or was it almost like you're straight back into trying to get through it? Do you know what I mean? Like, or did it take a while to have these relationships and these things, or?
No, it didn't take long to get the relationships because I was using it as a distraction. I was using I didn't want to focus on what was wrong with me. So I used engagement with other people as my distraction. And even down to the tea lady, her and I would have a giggle. And what did that do for me? She used to backtrack and always give me an extra bit of cake, right? So she'd do the rounds. I kid you not. She'd do the rounds. Everyone get a piece of cake. And then she'd come back and go, hey, got you an extra piece. Here you go, son. Yeah. But it was just, we'd just have a giggle, and I would take the time to talk to people like that because, I don't care where you are in the food chain, right? If you engage with me, you're going to get me. I'll engage and respect you irrespective of who you are.
Yeah.
But tea ladies, whoever it was, I loved engaging with them and talking to them and having a bit of a giggle. A quick story. So because I'd spent quite some time there, my sister sent me down a certificate booklet, right? And you could fill in the details. So I started to pretend that I was the patient's union representative.
Of course you did.
So I'm representing all the patients. Never spoken to any other patient about this at all. Just bluffed my way. Anyway, so I was a spokesman for all the patients, and I had to keep the staff in line. Anyway, so we one evening there, I said there's going to be a presentation night, and all the staff have got to come to my room at, I think it was 6 o'clock or whatever it was. Sure enough, I had literally 15 nurses in my room, right, and head nurses coming in, going, righto, because they all sort of knew me after a time. Righto, Harrison, what's going on? I said, okay, it's presentation night. And I started writing these certificates, right, for all these nurses. You know, you're really good at this. Here you go, Jan. You're really good at this. And they just loved it, right?
Yep.
Even to the point where if I forgot someone, they'd come up and go, where's my certificate?
Yes. Just like school kids on camp. Yep.
Yeah. It was that sort of atmosphere. But I created that because other patients weren't doing that. And they used to, you know, if they walked past my room, they'd always say, just jump in the door. Hey, Jamie, you know, and it made such a bad situation as good as it probably could have been in that situation, you know, that engagement, that connection with people. I'm aching to go back down to Adelaide and see some of those staff again, to just engage with them again. Not really to thank them, but just to show by returning that I respected them, that I enjoyed their time, that I valued what they did for me, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to make a pact. Let's go and interview them in a podcast and just how much you actually got under their skin. And
yeah. But
they would have loved it. They would have loved it.
I don't know. I hope some of them get to listen to this, but there's also another call out too, you know, through Facebook. Yeah. Some school friends who I hadn't seen in 35 years saw that I was down in Adelaide and I was in trouble. So they reached out and to Stuart and Lisa. I love you guys. But they were amazing. They would come in most nights. Stuart would come in, you know, and sit down in the room and just chat with me. Lisa would come in, you know, bringing me my favourite chocolates and all this sort of thing. And even when it was State of Origin, and I'm a Queenslander, I woke up one day and Stuart had laid a New South Wales jersey over my bed and on top of me.
Filthy. That's disgusting.
I know. So, you know, it was just so good to reach out to them and we just gelled straight away. You know, they're awesome people and did help me through a very bad time. But they took me in home, you know, fed me, let me stay there for a while. An overnighter. Yeah. I was allowed out of the hospital for an overnighter. Yeah. And that was just to break the monotony of hospital. But that was another connection that I'm grateful for. Yeah. You know, otherwise it wasn't, you know, for me going down there, I wouldn't have probably made the connection. Yeah.
So what about did your family reach out to you too when you were in that hospital then?
Yeah. So because it was middle of COVID, so it was hard to travel. Yeah. I had my sister and my brother came over, which was great. Yeah. But Justin had some obligations, so he couldn't stay that long. Yeah. But my sister stayed, and that was really good because the relationship with my sister is a very good one. And I bounce a lot of things off her. Yeah. And I knew when she was there that just everything would be taken care of. Yeah. I have that trust in her that she can answer for me pretty much. So if there's a big decision to be made and if I'm out of it, I had a certain comfort that I just knew if she was there, she was taking care of it and I would trust that she would make the right decision.
Yeah, you talk a lot about your sister, don't you?
Yeah, look, I love her to death. She's an amazing woman. She's an amazing mum and wife and you know, her and Jimmy, they got a great thing going on down there. Yeah, four nieces that I love. They keep me busy in a wheelchair, and who've accepted me in a wheelchair very easily. Like the transition for them, just to touch on that, was just bit of curiosity at the start.
Yeah.
But once they see that I'm okay by how I talk and how I interact with them, they're like, okay, well, you're in a chair. And now they easily or unknowingly, how can I say it, have adapted to the fact where they accommodate for me. So if we go out somewhere, they'll hold a door for me, or they'll check if there's a step, or they'll, they might come back and say, "Oh, Uncle Jamie, there's a step into this place. So do you want to go another way?"
So empathy, that's good.
Yeah, they've adjusted.
Well, you use that word adjusted. What about some of the other friends? How'd they adjust? Did they adjust?
Yeah, tough. Not all of them adjusted. So the answer is no. Before I get onto that though, we'll just stick with the Adelaide thing. So I had some friends that could come over and made the effort. Andrew and Kelly, they came from Melbourne. And the impact that I wasn't aware of that it had on family and friends. So to see mates shed tears for you is overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
And it was hard to comprehend. I didn't understand it because I thought it was my injury, it was my pain. But I saw mates shed tears. I saw the effort that a lot of mates just did at the drop of a hat. Best mate from school, Ben, him and his father flew all the way to Alice Springs and just jumped in my car and drove it back for me. No questions, just off. Yep. Tony and Scott and the boys looked after me and all my gear in Alice. They packed it all up and made sure everything was right. So yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But going back to what did you ask me before? Sorry.
I said, did everyone adjust? You're talking about your nieces could adjust, but what about friends, close friends that didn't adjust?
Friends adjusting, yeah. Mate, the answer is no, not everyone adjusted, and that surprised me. So a lot of mates, when they first saw me, didn't know how to talk to me. They sort of were on eggshells, sort of tippy-toed around the fact. They obviously concerned for me, but they didn't banter with me the same. They didn't talk to me with the same. They thought I was a bit fragile, I suppose, and rightfully so. I mean, they didn't know what was going on with me in my head.
But how'd that make you feel?
Yeah, it made me feel lost even more.
Yeah, because
your mates sometimes are your bouncing block. Like if everything's right with your mates, like they're the levelers, aren't they? They keep you on the level. They keep you in check.
Yeah.
So no, not all of them adjusted very well. But then on the flip side, some of them stepped up and really, really stepped up for me. The guys that were unexpected to do that. So that was really good. Guys going above and beyond for me. Yeah.
And then we talked about too over dinner when you're talking to Rach and I just talked about how, again, might be jumping forward a bit, but you said how you wanted everyone to know at once rather than have an individual conversation. Can you take us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so once I'd got back to Brisbane, so I'd done my time in Adelaide. I think it was 10 months in Adelaide, and then there was a spot available to come up here to the rehab facility up here, and I'd missed the opportunity to have a birthday or a 50th because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I thought, why not have a belated 50th? But more importantly, and mind you, I'm still in hospital, but why not get out of hospital and just have a huge party? And it was an introduction of the new me, as in my current situation.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that because I wanted everyone to see at once that I was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have dark times, so don't get me wrong, but fundamentally I wanted to see everyone that I'm still Jamie. Yeah. You can still throw some shit at me. You can still sledge me, keep it normal.
Yeah.
And I wanted, because I didn't want to go through the same conversation 1,000 times. Every time a mate catch up with a mate, how you going? How's this? How's that? Whereas if everyone just saw me chatting, having a good time, having a beer, just doing what we do as mates, it'd put them at ease, it'd put me at ease, and we get back to normal quicker.
Yeah.
The transition would be quicker. So that was my idea about that.
Yeah.
Having that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we fast forward to Brisbane now?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about Brisbane. Last time I saw you, you were in the hospital, sore elbow, and now you're in the Woodford household.
Yeah.
You supposed to be here?
Are we still recording? Is this well, technically no, but what yeah, does that really matter? No, so we the elbow is meant to have a 6-week period where there was actually no movement. Should stay in a cast and not move it at all. So no weight bearing. For those that don't know, I had surgery on my elbow twice, and part of that surgery was cutting my tricep muscle off the bone and then reattaching it. So I originally got done in January this year, 2024, and then I went home after the surgery after a couple of weeks, and under the doctor's instructions, I was allowed to go home, just living life normal. But the injury came undone, the surgery came undone. So I had to go back in, get it redone again. That was February. So, yeah, no, I shouldn't be here. They told me 6 weeks. We're week 4. I had some stuff to do on the weekend, so I had to break out against medical advice.
It's like the movies.
Yeah,
Like
literally.
Literally got in your Batman cape.
Literally put me under a blanket on a trolley and shipped me out, unseen. Anyone seen Patient Harrison?
We're going to write a story here. It's going to be a book. And when you were in hospital in Brisbane just recently, was it the same as Adelaide? Were you still building those connections? Was it a distraction, or was that just
same? No, definitely the same. I probably went in overdrive when it came to connections. I really enjoyed making some of the connections, but being out of hospital, right? We're talking about being out of hospital now. I spend a lot of time going back into the spinal ward.
Yeah.
And I do that because I feel comfortable talking to some of the patients that are going through what I went through, but I feel comfortable being there for them. I feel like I've got enough confidence now to give the right advice, having lived it now for a little while. I mean, I wouldn't say the same thing a year ago.
Yeah.
But, I'm a real fast learner, and I'm a real fast at adjusting. Yeah. And I've done some things that have taken other people years to get to, I'm less than 3 years post-injury, and I've ridden motorbikes, I've raced mountain bikes, I've raced off-road cars, I've done CrossFit, all these things that if you asked me when I was lying on the bed, back in Adelaide, there's no way. I could barely sit up, let alone do these things.
Yeah.
But, through the want and being stubborn and
the big why,
making it happen. But the connections, I made a lot of connections that I love, and some of them in particular. Like there's an old. I met this when I was in with my elbow. I met this old girl. We were in the same room, and her name was Jocelyn. Beautiful old lady. She'd fallen down some steps and broken she had a lot of injuries, right? And her and I sort of gelled, and we gelled because I was flirting with her a bit, and I was calling her my hospital girlfriend, and she was loving it. She was sort of flirting back, and we're having a bit of a giggle backwards and forwards. I mean, we just made a bit of a connection. So we were in the same room, we could sit and chat, and through that humour, it just in a bad place we felt good, right?
Yeah. I love that. In a bad place you felt good.
Yeah, and tell me that humour doesn't help the healing as well. A laugh goes a long way. So that's what we did, and I worked on it. Worked on her and made a really, really good connection to the point where I still go and visit her. She's in hospital and I'm out, and I still go and visit her. And I do what I can for her. I made a lot of connections that way. Yeah. And loved it.
And I keep thinking about that, but it feels like there's a big community element for you or within you to make that difference for people, but also maybe it's a purpose for you.
Definitely helps me. So, not being selfish about it, but I do it because I know I'm helping others, but also just as important, I know I'm helping myself. Yeah. I feel like I feel like by me going there and opening up and sharing my story to show them that I've been there where they are now.
Yeah.
I've felt their pain. I've had to struggle the same as them through that pain and through those difficulties, but I've managed to sort of come out the other side. So I like to show that and talk to them about that, but I've got to expose myself. I've got to expose some of the hurt that I went through.
That vulnerability.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I won't talk about everything, but I'll cover a lot, even some personal stuff with them to show that I am fair income about what I'm sharing with them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not just glossing over the nice, good parts. I'm telling them some of the bad parts too, you know, some of the personal things that I've had to deal with. And I think that they really appreciate that. They know it's coming from a genuine place.
He's someone who's been through it and still going through it.
Yeah.
So it probably means more than someone else is going to tell them.
Correct. It definitely sounds very different from someone that's lived what they're going through.
Yeah.
Apart from a doctor saying, "Oh, look, you'll be all right."
Yeah.
You know, I never go in, and I know there's some things that they just don't like to hear, and one of them in particular is, "Hey, how you going?" Because that's what everyone said to me, and you actually don't like hearing it because you've got to put up this pretend front like everything's going to be all right. So you're trying to accommodate someone else's needs, not your own.
Their feelings, yeah.
Their feelings. You want to make them feel okay because you're saying you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, because really, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to sit and go, you know what? No, things are shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you really want to, because do people really want to hear it though?
That's right.
Because if you did that, most people go, oh shit, here we go. I didn't really want to go down this rabbit
I just wanted to say, yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Correct. I want to engage for that second, then step away. Yeah. So yeah, and that's exactly how that felt when people would always come up and go, hey, how you going?
Yeah.
Now I know it's sort of we say it naturally.
Yeah, everyone, and regardless, yeah.
But when you're in hospital and people are, standing right in front of you and sort of engaging with you for that second, it can be a bit much. So that sort of got to me after a while.
So how's Jamie going now?
Getting better day by day. Things are changing for me. I'm getting more confident in what I'm doing. I'm getting more confident in my comfort in my new lifestyle.
Yeah.
Still having bad days.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Can I ask you what that looks like?
Yeah, it's where you let your mind take over and it starts to remind you of how bad life is, and it puts a taint on it. Mate, you're in a chair, you got nothing, you can't walk, you can't reach the top shelf over there, you can't change a light bulb, you can't mow the grass. Oh, look at those people playing in the sand, isn't that beautiful? You can't do that. So it's all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Oh, your back's hurting, your legs are hurting. Oh, today's shit. You're not hungry. It's just all these thoughts that come in. And that can be hard, but I've learned how to deal with that. I've learned that in me, like most other people, like everyone actually, there's two components. There's your brain and then there's yourself. And you've got to learn to tell your brain what you want it to do. And so, I look at, I'm going to sound silly here, but my brain for me is just the computer that runs my body.
Yeah.
I've got to program that computer. A lot of people do whatever their brain tells them. Oh, stay in, sleep in, stay in bed for a bit longer. It's cold outside. Oh, it's too cold to go for that run. It's hard to do this. It's hard to do that. Don't do it. Like we take usually the path of least resistance, right? The easiest way. I don't do that anymore. So
you dictate. You direct the brain.
Correct. Yeah, I dictate. So I tell it, no, this is what we're doing, and it's usually the outcome is usually great. Most people would relate to. Well, what do you mean? How does that work? Well, for the listeners or the guys out there, if you've ever done anything like going to the gym or something, and then you've had a bad day and you think, no, I'm not going to go to the gym, but then all of a sudden you tell yourself, you know what, I better just go. I've got to go. And then you have the best gym session in the world. Like you just go, man, I cracked that out today. Isn't that funny? I didn't even want to go.
Yeah.
It's because you've told your brain that what you wanted to do, and your brain's going, oh, okay, well, I better do what he says. So away you go.
Because our brain looks for shortcuts. Always looks for shortcuts.
Yeah. So I don't know the science behind it. I just know that for me, I have to change my environment, change my mindset, and do something. I always say to myself, just do something when I'm in those dark days, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I don't just sit there. I'll make sure I either get up and do something, roll outside, just something small, but just don't lie there or sit there in your thoughts.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
God, no, that's massive. Was there any good stories you'd like to share that happened in the hospital, either of the hospitals? Chasing people down there?
There's a lot of good-looking nurses around, female nurses. Look, there was a feel-good story for me was in Adelaide, right? There was this old farmer there, and when I first got to Adelaide, and I'd spent some time locked up on my back. But when they finally allowed me to get out of bed, they had a food mess or a food hall, or a dining room, right? And that's where most of the patients would go. If you weren't eating at your bed, you could go into this dining room. And I'd finally got the strength and the courage to move, and wheeled myself awkwardly into this dining room. And I wanted to hide. I didn't want anyone to engage with me, so I just wanted a table by myself. And I looked over, and all the tables were full, except there was one in a corner, and there was only one guy sitting on it. I thought, sweet. And he was an old fella. And I thought, sweet, I'll just wheel myself over there, and I'll sit there with him, and I'll be right. Anyway, as I've come around to the table, and I'm sitting opposite him, I noticed how he was eating. He was sort of just trying to scoop. He was awkwardly trying to scoop the food into his mouth. And it was like he couldn't see what he was doing. Yeah. And then I soon worked out he was blind. Right? Okay, yeah. So he's just, 1 minute he might scoop a spud and get that, but he was just going blind. He didn't know what he was picking up every scoop. So sometimes he'd just put an empty fork in his mouth, the poor bugger. He didn't know what was on it. I introduced myself. I said, hey, my name's Jamie. I'm just sitting opposite you. Hope you don't mind. I'm new here. And he said, no, mate, you're fine. You're good. So I showed a bit of respect. I just wanted him to know that someone was here. Yeah. It was my first sort of chance to engage with someone. I knew he wasn't going to ask too many questions, so it was a safe bet to just introduce myself, right? I knew he wasn't going.
He couldn't see you.
He wasn't going to go much further than that. Anyway, as time went by, we chatted a bit more, and then I started dropping in on his room, and the poor bugger, he couldn't. Every bed has a bell that you can ring for the nurse, right? But and it was always at the end of a cable, and he'd lose his, to fall to the side of the bed or something. So he could never ring. Every time I saw him, he could never ring for the nurses. So I made it my goal every day to make sure I swung by and saw him. And I'd stop at the door and I'd knock on the door, do all the right things, right? Just show respect to an old fella, knock on the door, say, hey, mate, it's Jamie, can I come in? And he'd be like, like the joy in his voice, right, because someone was there. So, mate, come on in, because he was, like I said, he was a farmer. He was a cattle farmer. And I used to just love ringing the bell for him. So we'd get the nurses in, because I'd make it also my mission to go get him out of that bed, and him and I would go sit in the sun and we'd have a cup of tea and a biscuit and we'd just chat.
Yeah, nice.
And his story was amazing, crazy. He literally was just feeding the cows one day, and he jumped off the back of a cruiser ute onto the ground because he'd finished unloading all the hay, and jarred his back, and then he fell to the ground, and he sat there for 10, 15 minutes, he reckons, and his legs came good. So he just jumped back up and carried on, didn't think anything of it. Went home as usual, went to sleep, went to wake up, couldn't move, right? He was paralysed. He had his eyesight, right? He comes to rehab, spends a couple of months there. One day wakes up and he's blind.
What?
Yeah. So he said to me, mate, that I could cope with being a paraplegic. He said, but once I lost my eyes, that broke him. He said that losing that was really tough. And I really felt for this old bugger, but he was great for a yarn. He was just old school.
Mate, you would have made his day every time he saw him.
And I just enjoyed speaking to the old fella. I like those old guys. I love their stories. I love the innocence in their stories, how genuine those stories are. There's no fluff about it. There's no sparkles about it. It's just old school country stories, of from hard men, hard, honest. And when I say hard men, men that worked hard and provided and, had those values.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of time for those sorts of guys.
Yeah. It's simple but tough.
Yeah. And that there's another connection that I forgot to mention. So here, got my elbow done, and I was in a room. It was a 2-bedroom room, which was great, and I got paired up with a fella called Bill Harrison. Right.
Nice.
So same surnames, and he was an old sailor, and he's had some awesome stories. Right. He was a real larrikin. He was an old school larrikin. He had that cheeky grin. He could get you laughing just by saying 4 words. Right. He was a larrikin, old school larrikin, and his beautiful wife Yvonne. She would come in, and once she learnt that I love donuts, I was getting 4 Krispy Kreme donuts daily. I mean, I should be a lot fatter than I am.
Mate, you're true. I'm thinking about cake, I'm thinking about biscuits, I'm thinking about donuts.
So she'd come in, and if I went out to do something, I'd come back, and on the bed there'd be 4 Krispy Kreme donuts. But old Bill, he is a great guy, and I'm going to catch up with him outside.
Yeah, nice.
But she was funny. We sat around. I mean, this is how comfortable we got. So we were sitting around. Mind you, her daughter's there who's, I don't know, she's got to be 40 old or something.
Yeah.
I never asked, but, and these guys are 70s, late 70s, and we're sitting around, and she's starting to ask all these little personal questions, and I know, and it's about relationships and about this and how's this going. And it just got to the point where I just knew she was dancing around. She wanted to know if my if my main man was part of the deal, right? If he worked, right? Yeah. So she's dancing around, and I just said to her, I just stopped. I say, Yvonne, go on, just ask me. I know what you want to. She's like, what? And she's grinning at me. She's looking at me, grinning, going, what do you want to know if my willy works, don't you? Right? So she's like, oh, well, I didn't know how to ask you and stuff, but that gives you an idea of the sort of connection we made, and the humour and the laughing.
But you made her feel comfortable for that. You made her feel like at ease with that.
You can ask me. Go on, ask me. You want to know. But they're great. They were great. So every time I'd swing past and say good day, and swing past his room, because he was getting dementia and at a rapid rate. I hope they don't mind me saying that, but so he'd have trouble opening the packets of cereal. So I'd swing by and open it for him like early in the morning. Yeah. Once he was set up eating, I'd sort of go back to my room. But I just love, he's this poor old fella. He's done his time. He's helped. He's done, provided for his family. And I mean, why not give something back just a little bit? And it was good for me. Like, it was a distraction. It was a giggle. I felt good. I mean, why not do it?
It's win-win. I think you've got a gift there. I really do think you've got a gift there. Mate, amazing story. Still going through, and I just can't believe some of the things you've actually touched on again, and the connection you've made. And, we talked about the authentic connections you do make with people, and you do in that community all the time. So, mate, it's just crazy.
Yeah, thanks.
I was going to ask you some more fun questions if you're up for it, but I don't know if you're up for that, are you?
Yeah, I'm up for it.
Because last time you killed it when I did those joke questions, so I was just going to make it a bit lighthearted for a second.
Go on.
This is going to be those quick answers again. You ready?
Oh, I hate these ones.
Take your glasses off and stop looking at my questions, mate. It's cheating.
I'm trying to, I'm a racer. I want to get the head start.
Here we go.
Right, hit me.
What superpower would you like and why?
Being invisible.
Should we go for what? This is G-rated, mate. You can't.
Yeah. No, just being invisible. Just so I could rob banks.
What's the funniest thing that's happened to you?
Oh, funniest thing, mate. Broke my legs.
Is it fun?
Yeah, skip.
All right. What about a most embarrassing moment?
Oh, my pants fell down once at school.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
What grade were you in?
I was in 8.
Oh, it's tough to recover from that.
Yeah, and when like year 8, things are starting to sort of develop. Yeah, so you're really conscious of that. Yeah, so when old mate saw the breeze, it wasn't real good.
No, it's like being in the pool.
Yeah.
If you could display one sentence in the sky, what would it be?
Where'd you get these questions from? Oh, my God. They're thinking questions. These aren't joke questions.
I'm looking for a hospital wife. Yes, good answer. Yeah, okay. You're talking about the oldies today. If you could live in any era or period of life, when would it be and why?
I reckon the 50s and 60s. I don't know. I just somewhere around there, just before technology took over and we
dominate there for sure.
Social media. You know, it's back when you could sit and have a conversation, you could engage, things were innocent. You know, the old school cars. I loved all that. Just I don't know. There was just where people dressed smart. You know, guys would put a suit on just to go get milk, or you go down the road and the ladies would just be dolled up. Like there was a lot of self-respect.
Yeah,
there was a lot of respect for others. You knew your social boundaries. You knew your social distancing. Like
there's a politeness.
You didn't. There was a politeness. Exactly. Yeah. You didn't. You waved and said hello to everyone back. You know, and there was no consequences. Yeah.
See, I still think there's a time where we have to take back the line with that. We took some of the kids the other day to lawn bowls, and one of the grade 7 kids just goes, "You remind me of my grandma. You're so lovely." And it was just a beautiful relationship. And I just think those authentic relationships like you're making in the hospitals, that's the real deal. It's not a technology. That's the real deal.
No.
And it's win-win for both people.
Yep.
Well, here's a good one. If you could have a conversation with your younger self, what would it be?
Mate, slow down a bit.
Would it be?
Just slow down a bit.
Would you listen to yourself?
No.
No, exactly.
Slow down and be like, the left shoulder and the right shoulder scenario.
All right, I've got a couple more already. If you could keep 3 possessions for the rest of your life, what would they be? Makes me nervous when you're smiling about this question. I don't know why, but it does.
3 possessions. And why? Oh, Jesus, Gary. Probably motorbike because it gives me the headspace freedom. It's a reset for me.
Yeah,
just riding it, like most people know, when they ride a bike, you know, out in the bush or wherever on the road. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Next thing would be, my house because I've worked hard for it.
Yeah.
One more.
Yeah, one more. Forget one.
One more. I'm proud of the Think trophies because I know the time and effort and money spent in that. You know, the personal achievement.
Yeah.
You know, they are milestones for me.
Yeah.
So, I can look at them and sort of have a bit of a chest pump moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on you. All right. What about, this is a serious one. If you could be a TV character in a show, what would it be and why? Or who would it be and why?
Sorry, this is a serious one?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we're going to SpongeBob or what are we doing?
This is your call. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know who gives me these notes. I don't know who gives me these show notes. If you could be any TV character in a show, who would they be and why?
TV character. I'd be Dickie Neoff, Hey Hey Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was just cheeky and short like me. I fit the bill straight away.
That's actually a bit of a joke too. All right. What's next for Jamie Harrison?
What's next for Jamie Harrison?
Yep.
We're doing that transition from 2 wheels to 4 wheels.
Oh.
Yeah. And it started.
It started. All right. Mm-hmm. Was there a connection with Phil? Is there something you want to mention there?
Yes.
What do you mean it started?
Mr. Phil Lovett. He's one of those old school Americans, and he's also a very good competitor and a very skilled rider. But he's in driving now. He's into driving now. But at the time of the accident, him and I connected at Fink and through Fink.
Yeah.
He's based in New South Wales and I'm based in Queensland, but we'd always catch up with each other at Fink, and I used to love catching up with him. He was always had a lot of time for him and still do. But when I crashed, he came to the hospital and he said to me, he just said simply, "Mate, don't worry, we'll get you in a buggy." And I don't know, from a racer to another racer, it just gave me something to aim for. It gave me a distraction to think about instead of the pain and the hurt and the unknowing, the uncertainty that I was going through at the hospital. So to hear that was actually very powerful. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you realise how powerful, but I focused on that in my rehab. Like, mate, you got to, because you're going back, right?
Yeah.
So then, it was embedded in my head to the point where whatever it was, months later when I was in Adelaide and I got interviewed by Channel 7, it's the first thing I said, I'm going back, but I'm going back in a buggy. And sort of a bit confused about me wanting to just race, willingly want to go back and race again. But we're making that happen. We're putting steps in place now to make that happen. So stay tuned or watch this space. There's some more in that. There's some
more things that have happened, isn't there?
There's some things that have happened, and we've ticked a few of the boxes already.
Yeah,
and making it happen. So we're looking forward to Think 2024.
Well done, mate.
Trying to be the first paraplegic driver to do it, and not only just turn up and be a number. We're turning up to have a crack. So we will see.
I love that.
Yeah, I know.
Mate, I love having you on the show. Like, you're so authentic and just you're so giving. You're so giving. There's a lot of people can learn from you. And
thank you.
And I'm not just talking through the tragedy you've been through, but also the rehab you've done yourself, the hard work, but also the way you have invested in others and are there for other people, mate. And that might serve you as a purpose. Mm-hmm. But just to make their day, mate, you just cannot underestimate the power you've got of what you're doing to other people, mate. So you're a champion.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show, mate. I can't wait till the next episode. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more that you can disclose.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.